Thankful Thursdays. I just have to go ahead and say go live here and then go ahead and share to my group on Facebook. It's all the techie things because it's just me here, guys. So it's all the techie things you have to do when you're by yourself live streaming, which is like a weird skill that I acquired during the pandemic. So let me go post this in my group and we should be done there. Yep. I'm going to close this because I don't want to take up my bandwidth. Let's see what it's, okay. I want to do that. I have to let Instagram go and then we're good. Okay, so welcome guys. I'm glad some of you are on. I see Linda and Nancy are here today. I was worried, and Bernadette, I was worried no one was going to come today. I'm so confused with what day are we? The third? We're the third Thursday of the month, so we should be broadcasting. Usually I do it in the first and third. So right off the top, if you guys don't know me, I'm Bernina, a quilting expert, Amanda Murphy. I usually demo things here on the Bernina Q16, which is, the way I have it set up, it's a sit-down long arm. But most of the time, it's applicable to you guys who have regular sewing machines as well. So that's what we'll be doing today. And I thought I'd show you how I quilted the triangles behind me on this quilt because it's one of my favorite quilts I've done, and you can see the piecing is reflected in the actual quilting. So I'm going to show you how I did that, etc. Hi from my mom. Hi, Mom. So, Mom, I still have the headache. So I got the COVID shot on Tuesday, and I still have the headache, which is why one of my eyes is smaller than the other. But I am here broadcasting because next month, I'm gone the first and the third Thursdays of the month, I think. I have the look at when they fall. Yes, I'm gone the first and third. So next month in March, we're going to do the second and fourth Thursdays of the month instead of the first and third. Okay. So there is a chance that I will live broadcast something on the first Thursday of the month. And that is because I'll be in Germany at H&H. I'm going to be, so all you European dealers, I'm going to be in the Metler booth. I actually wrote them this morning. I don't think they've written me back yet. No, they didn't write me back quite yet. Of course, they were probably asleep, right? So it's either in the it's in the Metler group booth. That's where I'll be to help launch Perfect Quilting Thread for Europe. I don't know the booth number, but I will post it once I have it. And if you are a European dealer, please come and see me. So that will be at H&H in Germany. So that's different than H&H America. And for those of you who are wondering what that is, it's an industry show where the shops would come to buy things from the manufacturers or the designers, etc. So, oh, you've had a vertical for a week. That's not fun. That's what Kathy said. Yeah, it's like crazy. This weather here is crazy. My mom is so snowed in. So, anyway, so that's where I'll be. I might broadcast from that show. It just depends. I don't know how much. I'll probably be in the booth most of the time, so we'll see what we do there. And I'm so used to broadcasting with computers and cameras and things. I couldn't find my camera before this, and my husband has a headache too. So we had a mad rush looking for the camera, but we did find it. I put it in the closet. So, yeah, from Beaufort, South Carolina. You guys, we don't usually get cold, but it's cold here. And I think the East has way more snow than we don't really have snow on the ground, but man, is it cold. Okay, we get ice. So that's what's going to happen next month. Second and fourth Thursday instead of first and third, although I might do some type of thing on my phone at the show. Afterward, the third Thursday of that month, I'll be at Chestnut Ridge Sewing. I don't know if they still had spots. They had a few spots last time I talked to them. I don't know if they still have spots. After that, I'll be at Hoover's in April, and then I'll be at Montevilla and Quality Sewing in April before I do the H&H show, which is in the U.S., which is another industry show. And then it will be Bernina University, which is what I have to work on now. And speaking of which, like the fabric already went out, the rulers already went out, but I have not started any of the digital files. So later today, all of that stuff will go away and the graphics tablet will be up here. And I'm thinking it will take me 5 days, but to do the digital files that will come out next summer, but it'll probably take me twice as long. I also thought I was doing this project for the VIP 990 group, and I thought it would take me a day to make the sample. But I have to film when I make samples and things, and like I'm still binding, so I'm not great at predicting how much it would take. Um, okay, Jill says she's from Lake Wiley, which is not far from here, where we have tiny snowflakes. We have snowflakes, but they're not really doing anything on the ground right now because the ground's a little too warm. So, but if it was later in the day, they would. So you guys, if you're influenced to buy a Bernina, you know the drill. I can send you $100 rebate card, whether it's a long arm, a serger, a domestic machine. But what do you have to do? You have to write me before you put money down, or I can't send you a card, right? Because the cards get dated and I can't backdate anything. So you got to write me before, within 30 days of your purchase, but before the purchase is when you write me, and they do ask me to prove it. So I have to have those emails, okay? So you got to write me before. Same thing for Laura Stars that are $7.99 and up. I can give you a rebate for $50 instead rather than $100. I had a bunch of people ask me same conditions. You can't have put money down. I had a bunch of people ask me about Bernina's if you software qualifies. If it was just a software upgrade, it doesn't qualify because it has to be at least $1,000. But if it was the purchase of the full software, then it would qualify. Same thing for people moving from sit downs to frames. Like if I was to take this and put it on a frame, same deal. Okay. So I want to mention one other thing, which someone is going to call us out on, but like I didn't. It's confusing. So Bernita's been advertising that I have a live at, what is it? I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern because it's 2 p.m. Central. And it's with Lane, who's the new Bernina educator. Now, I'm going to tell you more about the live later, but here's the secret: it's not really live because you guys know I was at Bernina filming it 2 weeks ago, right? So you guys know it's not really live. But the reason I guess they say it's live is they present it live. Like they play the recording and they monitor it live. But obviously, I didn't go from Charlotte to Chicago, get dressed up in like the period of an hour or two, right? So the live that Bernina's promoting today, where we talk about long arm specials, and then Lane and I show a couple things we like to do on a frame. Um, that is happening, and actually, I'll probably watch it, which is weird to watch yourself on a live. But you guys know it's not really live before someone even says it. Hopefully, no one says it, and we don't get into a thing about it online. I don't know why Bernina promotes these things as live, but anyway. So Lane Hunter is the new Bernina employee who's a long arm educator. I've known Lane for a long, long time because he has monitored my classrooms both in Houston and at the Creative Center. So he was an individual contractor like Joanne is. She's actually at a quilt show today. He's an individual contractor who now works for Bernina on education. So we wanted to introduce him to people because he's going to be on more things. Some of you who have been to shows might have already met him because he did monitor for the classrooms for the number of years, and now he'll be teaching the class in Houston. So I used to see Lane a lot in Houston, and now when I'm teaching, he'll be at the booth, and when he's teaching, I'll be in the booth, right? So you'll get to meet Lane, and he's very, very, very creative, and one of my favorite monitors. And then also Vince is making an appearance, and he's kind of head of long arm sales in the US. So he goes to various shows. I bet he's a QuiltCon now. right? So he comes in and he talks about specials, etc. But it was kind of a chance to get you guys to see who I normally work with on the long arm team. Um, and I think Vince and I in the future will be filming some things. We may do something at H&H Americas. So will be, and sometimes it's going to be a little more education based, and sometimes it's going to be a little bit more sales based. But we wanted to get those two faces out in front of you guys. Okay, so, oh gosh, it's cold everywhere, isn't it? Okay, so I meant to print one of these. You know what? Maybe I have something. We're going to hope this doesn't fall down on me. Maybe I have a pattern already printed here. I do. Okay. Because I wanted to show you guys this. Okay, so as far as kits go, you guys know I only get a limited number of kits. Like I order enough fabric for a super limited number of kits. Janet, I have my quilt. It's just clamped, like it's not fancy. This is, it's like a hanger that photographers use for paper backdrops. It's one of those. So it just, I mean, I could knock it over, really, but that's what it's easy to set up and put away. And I just have it hung with binder clips. Actually, my husband did this right before I started. We both have headaches, so I was like, "Where's my camera? Where's my camera?" Mom, if you're still on, it's like when you and Dad get fixated on something. But actually, it would have been a problem for me not to have a camera. Okay, so this is what, if my mom's still on, she'll see. I am raised by two extremely type A personalities. It's probably the only reason I get anything done ever, because I think left to my own devices, I wouldn't. But you know, I'm raised by people who are deadline oriented, which is how I get so much done. So thanks to my parents. Okay, right? So that's the daytime color story you see behind me with the quilting and the channels. And I'm going to do some of that today, and I'll probably do some of this in a future presentation. I forgot to tell you where I'm going to be this summer, guys. I'll be at World of Sewing in Raleigh, North Carolina. In Illinois, I'll be at Hudson Sewing Studio, and I'll be at Pine Needles in Minnesota. Okay. Let's see. I have more teaching. Okay, I wanted to show you the night color story. So, here's the deal on kits. Remember Union Square I showed you last week? I have one more night color story of Union Square. So that was the quilt that was made out of the panels, right? I have maybe a half dozen of the day. Of this quilt behind me, I have 8 of each color story, except one was bought. So I have 7, but I don't remember which one. Now, the way this is made, it's very, very simple foundation paper piecing, okay? So I'm going to show you like the simplest one. So like this is the simplest one, and basically you would put a piece of fabric behind area 1, sew in the line between 1 and 2, and then flip open the fabric on 2, sew in the line between 2 and 3, flip in the fabric on 3, and you guys get how this is made. Well, and it was my goal to make a really, really simple foundation piecing pattern, because the way I thought of it, it was kind of like an intro to doing a quilt like Twirl, like the big one with the big circle that everyone's attracted to. I thought, okay, I need to do something like a little simpler. But also I had this whole idea that the open blocks would be quilted like the piece blocks, right? So they mimic the quilting of the piece blocks, which is what I'm going to show you today, at least one of the designs. So the designs that look more complicated, they're actually not, because you're sewing down the line between 1 and 2, and then 2 and 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then you flip to the other line. But you see how this is built. So if I was quilting this design, I would start by quilting this line, right? And then I'd quilt another, and it doesn't have to be literal. It could be like a similar design. You won't notice if the spacing's a little different. So maybe I quilt a line 1 inch away from here, and then 1/2 inch, and then 1 inch away from that side, and then 1/2 inch. And I basically kind of go backwards to quilt the design. Okay. Now, I think you guys totally are going to get how you would quilt these two designs on the block, right? On this one here, you just do equal distance rows, and this one here, you'd start in the center and maybe go 1/2 inch out on either side, and then another 1/2 inch, and then 1 inch. And the reason why it's started in the center is to center the design, right? Okay, so I thought today we'll do one of these designs. Like, I'll use this as reference, right? And then I'll do the flying geese next time. Okay? Thanks. You like this quilt? I really love it. This was like my favorite quilt this time. And I'm not discouraging you from Union Square. It's a fun panel quilt, and you can do a lot of quilting with it. But this was a quilt that I thought, sorry, I have this headache on my eye. It's just driving me crazy. This is a quilt where I thought about the quilting first and designed backwards, and it's not hard. Like, it's a fun quilt that's not hard. And I would like to see this also in like boy masculine fabrics. I have this one made. I have Metro made too, that Joanne made, that I have to quilt. Boy, am I getting off topic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is draw a triangle on a fat quarter of fabric, and I was going to use this white fat quarter I had, but I realized I had no thread down here. I also have all my snips upstairs, so I have a bunch of things. I'm wondering, it's probably going to be easier for you to see them on the black side. And basically, I'm just going to, well, if I do the black side, you can't see my drawings. Maybe I'll do the red side. Okay, so I'm just going to draw an 8-inch channel and draw some triangles on it. And the reason I'm just, oops, goodness gracious. Okay. I'm just going to do this. I meant to do this before we started, but as you know, I couldn't find my camera, so that was the crisis at hand. So I am just going to quilt. I wonder if I did 2 8-inch channels, if I could fit them in here. I don't know that that's going to help me. I'll do one going this way. So I'm just marking an 8-inch channel. And oftentimes, if I'm unsure, I will, I'll do this like a sample block on a practice sandwich, okay? So this would not be, I mean, I'm doing this for you, obviously, but this is not, I don't only draw this stuff just when I have you guys here. Oftentimes, I will try a practice sandwich, or if I'm on the frame, I will actually quilt in the margins, like around the piece that I'm doing. Oftentimes, I don't, on a frame, I don't actually center my quilt because of that, because I want to have some space to work. So I start off with backing fabric that's bigger and then put the quilt more to one side, because then I can figure things out on the side. So I'm just drawing this 8-inch channel, and I'm actually going to take my cutting ruler and just draw a sample block. Of course, you guys know you never quilt or do ruler work with a cutting thickness ruler, right? Because it's not thick enough to be safe. You could crash on your foot, and that would be no fun. So now all I'm doing, I'm using my cutting ruler just to draw triangles. See, and I'd say I try to mark as minimally as I can, because you have to get out marks, and we don't know what any of these products are going to do. So one thing you'll see in this particular design is I don't really mark much at all when I'm actually creating the ruler work. And you know what? I should have brought every angle plus down, and I think it's upstairs. I've been doing, as I said, a thing for the 990 And so a lot of my marking tools are upstairs right now. I'm going to have enough for 3 of these. So who knows what we'll do. And okay, so I basically have 3 triangles, okay? And we're just going to pretend like I'm quilting on a quilt. Okay, so let me move this. This went with this pattern. Move this over here. And video capture device. Now you guys know when I'm quilting. When I am quilting, I oftentimes don't look up and see your comments. So if I miss it, you can always ask again later. I am using this as the idea, right? This is the idea here. And I'm going to go see if I can find my every angle ruler. I brought back down a bunch of rulers. I just don't know what's up and down. I would rather have a longer ruler to do this, even if it's every angle or every angle plus. Here's. I have like multiples of those on every floor. Okay, so this channel is about 1 inch and that channel is a 1/2 inch, right? Because you wouldn't count the seam allowance here. So that's about 1 inch and that's a 1/2 inch. And if I'm on the quilt, I often don't reference the pattern. I'd reference the piecing, but we're quilting without any piecing. Okay, so I'm going to go into BSR2, which is what I do on a Q series, but you guys know, unlike a 7, you'd be regulating your own stitches for this. I have a ruler foot on, and you know, well, the first thing that I'm going to do here, I would have stitched in the ditch around the triangle. So let's just do that really fast. So you guys know, don't bring over your ruler until the foot's down. So needle up, needle down, needle up, bring up that bobbin thread, and then bring the presser foot down. Now, this is a kind of light periwinkle. It's going to look white on screen, but color of perfect quilting thread. And let me get some gloves, because that's what I had in the machine, because that's what I was doing a project with last. So, I should have cleaned this. Sorry, Bernina. Okay, so I would do the small stitches by going on the screen and starting small, because I'm in a stitch regulated mode, because I'm on the Q series. We'll get back to what I do without a stitch regulated mode later, and then I'm back at 10, and I'm going to just stitch. We're going to pretend this is in the ditch. So I want to talk about something, though. You guys are seeing me just stitch one block. If I looked at this quilt behind me, and I went off my ruler just then, so sorry about that. If I looked at this quilt behind me, I would be doing those horizontal lines first, right? And then I do the diagonal line. So as I came down to each section on a frame, I'd do that horizontal line on the bottom and then go back like that. And if I was on a domestic machine, I do all the horizontal lines and then I do out the diagonal lines like straight through the full quilt. Okay, so I wouldn't just do every individual triangle like I am doing here. Okay. So it just depends on what kind of machine you're stitching on. Is it a sit down or is it a frame? Okay, so I'm just doing my stitch in the ditch just so you guys can clearly see. If you hear a squeak when you're doing ruler work, you are pushing too hard into the ruler. Now here I'm going to hold the foot in front because there's just not a lot of fabric in the back. Okay, so that first diagonal was about 1 inch, right? So it was 1 inch away from the line. I went a little crooked on here, but it was 1 inch away. That means if my ruler is right on the stitch line, my stitch line will be 1/4 inch away. If the first line in is on that line, we're 1/2. And so this second line in, because there's a big space between line 1 and 2, will be the full inch. Okay, so if I went a little too far, I just back up and then I go straight that way. Now, if I looked at that block pattern that I was trying to mimic, do you see how, okay, I'm looking at number 9. I just stitched that divider. And now I want to do number 8 before I turn and go the other direction. Okay, so let's go back over here. Someone go ahead and comment. I want to make sure, you guys might just be watching, but I want to make sure my comments aren't broken, because sometimes my comments turn off, which drives me crazy, and I don't have Joanne here to test it for me. But she's at a quilt show. Okay, so now I have the thin channel. Right. Now if I had thought this whole thing through, the next line goes over here. So I guess if I had really thought it through, I would have started up here, gone here, so I would have ended up over here. But I didn't think it through. Oh, good. Jean said something. Okay. So I'm going to go until I'm an inch over to make a line like this. Okay. I want to be an inch away from that line. Now, this is what confuses people. They think, oh, that means an inch from that point. No, it doesn't. It's really an inch going this way, not that way. So you kind of have to do your best guess. I'm going to guess about there and turn. I was right, but you know, in real life, you're never right. Okay, so now I'm doing the line an inch away, right? And notice how my palms are down on the fabric. My palms are down. I am grounded on that fabric. Now, this is going to actually, I'm going to have to travel a little more than a half an inch. That's a little more. I can tell it's a little more because of the margin from the edge of my foot to the stitch line, right? But it's a half an inch away that direction. So instead of being like a half an inch away like that, it's a half an inch away like that. It's a little weird, but you do get the hang of it eventually. Okay, so now I have to go the other direction. Now, I'm going to have to travel over that line a lot, which is why I said if I had thought it through, I would have figured out how to start. I would have started in a different place, but that's okay. It's not going to be a ridiculous amount. Okay. Now, you guys on a domestic machine, I'm going to turn it on manual so you can see me. Okay, you're going to go, I should say domestic machines except for the 990. Slow and steady wins the race on these type of machines, right? Because you are your own stitch regulator. So note, I'm kind of moving slow and steady when I'm in a manual mode without the aid of a regulator. I went too far there, so I'm just going to back up a little. Right? Oh, so fun. See, this is why I did this whole quilt. And as I said, I have 8 or 7 of each kit. So you guys can get them as long as I have them. I will not be making more. Okay. Okay, so this is kind of where the fun begins for me, is doing some type of fill in these thicker areas, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just thinking of what I'm going to do next. I could do loops. I could do swirls. Maybe I'll do a swirl here. I think I'll do a swirl. And then in the next one, maybe I'll do some ribbons or something. Okay, so at this point, the reason why I'm going to rotate it is just to get the bulk of the quilt sandwich on the table. And I'm going to move my iPad. Okay, and let's put on our gripper ring. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little swirl here and then do swirls in the wider channels. Okay, so I started there. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to. The great thing about this quilt is that you really are not going to see all the details. You're only going to see textures. So what you're just trying to do, if you guys don't believe me, look at the quilt behind me, right? See how you just see the texture of the channels? You don't see the line, especially because I'm not using contrasting thread there. So this, you could do a custom looking quilt even if you're only capable, like right now, you feel like all I can do is loops. That's fine for this quilt. This is a quilt where actually you can get that custom look even if you're just a beginner. So as I do these swirls, my stopping point is always like the reverse direction point. So I swirl in, then I swirl out. And now I use those travel lines. I use my ruler to travel down and fill another channel. Now I'm going to give you another option. Um, in After I do this channel with swirls, I'm going to give you another option for the remaining two channels. Normally on a quilt, I would choose each block. I choose one design. I wouldn't probably mix them because I think it could be distracting. Like, so one triangle would have swirls and one triangle would have loops. But I'm going to mix them here because I want you to see some options. Because this really is a quilt where you can jump into custom quilting, the summit quilt, without being an expert, because it's the space that's unquilted between these channels and it's all made of straight lines, so no big deal, that make it look interesting. So let's do like a letter L, letter E in this channel. As I said, I wouldn't normally do different designs, but you can see I'm struggling here, which is funny. I don't on the frame to keep them straight. So this is a period. If you were doing this on a sit down machine and you felt better about going one way versus the other way, I'm just looking at what I did. I'm gonna have to raise my foot so I can see. Yeah, I see it. Okay. Um, you could always rotate your quilt if it was throwing you off being at a diagonal. Okay, so now you can either use your ruler or you can hopefully travel over the lines without a ruler. It depends on how bold you're feeling for the day, right? And then let's do like, just to give you another idea, loops up and down. Okay, so okay, so that's another way I could do it. Yes, I did the same quilting designs on the piece blocks. You just can't see them. So if I was doing this and I wanted to practice, I do all this. I do all the in the ditch around the blocks first, right? So as I said, you do the horizontal lines followed by the main diagonals that divide the blocks. And then I quilt the piece blocks because you can't see and you can kind of warm up. And then as you get more confident, then you can go and do the plain blocks. Now, I will say that the background for this one, the daytime color story, is a cotton shot, whereas the background for the nighttime one is more of like a little dotty print, sort of like, it's not this color, it's navy blue, but it's sort of like this print, that little dotty thing here, right? So you're going to see it a little bit more on the cotton shot than you would on that. Um, but I did quilt on the piece blocks. Okay, so um, just as another example, let's do one more block. Now, remember I said I ended up with way more traveling lines than I actually wanted there. I'd think more about that if I wasn't also quilting for you guys at the same time. Sometimes when I'm talking through it, I miss things I wouldn't normally think about. Now I'm still in manual mode here, so you can see how I'm moving a little differently. I'm not letting myself slow down, speed up. None of that. Okay. And then I almost made it without repositioning, but not quite. Okay, so now I'm going to do the other kind of design on this, where every channel is an inch. Okay, every channel's an inch, and I change directions each time. Go ahead, because I'm not too far from being done. Go ahead and ask me any other questions you might have today. Quilting questions, because that's all I know, you guys. Um, and if you have ideas for what you'd like to see Bernina and I videotape as we do more videos, um, just things you'd like to ask. Again, I should have thought that through because I would have ended up over there. Um, Start to give me those ideas too, because maybe that's something we can consider doing. I think the next video we're filming is going to be H Americans, but now if I'm doing a fill here, I'm only going to fill every other channel here. I can't even remember how I did this on the... Okay, so then I need to be over there. So I have to think about which channels I'm filling, right? Do I fill the second and fourth channels or the first and third? And you just have to make a decision on that. I'm just going to do the second and fourth, and I think I'm going to do a ribbon candy. If I do a ribbon candy here, I'll probably do a shape that's sort of like ribbon candy in this little triangle as well. Okay. How many times max do I travel over? I would try not to do more than 3 or 4. I probably, um, yeah, more than 3 or 4. It depends on the kind of thread, Heidi, because if I was using silk, honestly, I could get away with quite a bit. So that's just like a sort of curvy line that matches the ribbon candy I'm going to do everywhere else. Okay, so now think about going around a circle. Now you can see these aren't perfect. Do you guys see that? it doesn't matter. What you're going to see is texture. You're not really going to see that some of them are lopsided and some of them aren't. And honestly, I'd rather do this with, here we go. If it throws you quilting these on a diagonal, I can quilt them on a diagonal. I should quilt when I'm not talking. Half decently, because I made myself learn. I had this quilt called Amethyst Jubilee, and it had all this ribbon candy in a diagonal, and you could kind of teach yourself to do it. Okay. I want to be down here now. So I'm going to really do overkill here probably and use these huge scissors I have because I have 6 million pairs of my little curved snips for brewer, but they're all upstairs. Okay, so thank you, Roseanne. Roseanne just told you where to find kits. So I want to point out something. You should not see how that guy's a little flat and he's a little lopsided. That is crazy to rip out, right? That is crazy. You need to let it go. Sometimes you're going to have stuff like that happen because really it ends up being more like that. And then it's just texture. Okay. That's all it is. So you're going to have inconsistencies and that is going to make the quilt worth more money in 100 years when AI can do everything. Okay. So just relax about that. Let's see. Yeah, I think I had 8 of each colorway originally, I thought, but one was sold, so I can't remember which one was sold. How many times max do you travel? Is the kit in the pattern available now? So one thing about my kits, they do not include the pattern because some people want patterns as PDFs and some people want them as like a printed pattern. So because I'm just one person and I have like limited capacity. I don't have an inventory system where if I put the pattern into the kit, it could really keep track. Like if someone bought a PDF, it wouldn't also know to deduct a kit from the printed pattern. So I have to do the pattern separately. So you have to buy the pattern because it's the only way I can make it really work on my website. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's how the patterns work. Now, let's see. Are there any other questions? Going in. Nope. I think that's it. So next time will be the second Thursday in March, unless I try to broadcast from H&H. Okay. Haven't I been able to try Q16 on the new frame that was just announced? Actually, the clamp hoop. Ellen, so yes, I have tried it. I don't have one in my house, so I can't show you. Maybe we will show you that next time when we're filming at H&H, when Bernina and I are filming. Maybe we'll show you that. So there is a new clamp hoop frame that is coming out. And the idea is you can have a 16 or a 16 plus, and you can have a small space, and you could quilt. So prior to this introduction of this particular hoop frame, you could buy the studio frame and set it up for 5 feet, right? Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll try to do that from H&H. I'm very close to Bernina at H&H. And also, sometimes we go in before the show and we film video just because it's so loud at the show. It's hard to get the video like that. But maybe we'll show that at H&H. So anyway, if you had small space, you were either limited to a table or you were limited to this 5 foot frame. Now, the problem with the 5 foot frame, of course, you guys know I love frame quilting. I actually like it more than sit down quilting. Um, the problem with that was your piece had to be smaller than 5 feet. Like that, you're very limited in size. And so who that worked for were like art quilters who did only wall hangings, right? So the idea with the clamp frame, which is not cumatic compliant, like it's just for free motion and ruler work. And the idea with the hoop frame is you could do a bigger piece and just keep reclamping it, right? So what you're giving up, well, on the 5 foot frame, you couldn't have cumatic anyway, but like you don't have a full computerized system like you would on a frame, a big frame, right? So you're just going to be clamping and doing free motion and ruler work on this piece. So you would do it much the same order that you do on a domestic. What I would recommend for the quilt behind me is to quilt using a ruler, all your horizontals first, then your diagonals, and you keep reclamping, right? Um, and then you would go in and do all your ruler work. So why would you buy that, right? Well, the advantage of any frame, whether it's like a hoop frame or a regular frame, a regular long arm frame, is that you are not pushing the quilt, like you don't have the weight of the quilt, right? That's the advantage. Um, and so it's easier, I think, on your back. Now you do have to reteach yourself in a way if you're used to moving the fabric and then you all of a sudden are moving the pencil. Um, it is a little different. It does take some getting used to, but it is very liberating to not have to move the quilt. So this is Bernina um, kind of giving you another option if you want to do big quilts, but you have a small space. So it's like the people who only could have tables before because their space was limited might be interested in um, the hoop frame, right? Now, the hoop frame versus like when you look at the hoop frame versus its competitors on the market, um, it has like a very innovative system of clamping. It's not like a cylinder, and so it doesn't tend to move as much. It's more like it's not a hexagon shape, I don't think. I'd have to look at it up close. But anyway, it doesn't slide. It's a very nice clamping system. The other thing is it's adjustable in height, which is actually really nice. Now, it's not like push of the button adjustable in height, but you can adjust the legs, right? So, for people with limited, I am not going to get rid of my Q24 to have a clamp frame, right? But for people who have, because I'd give up Qmatic and all the other stuff I do. But for people who have a limited space, it is a really nice system. It also does accommodate domestics, but it is much, much easier with a Q. Just because you have a much bigger depth, right? So you give up a lot of that if you put a smaller domestic on. So, and honestly, I don't want to say what the price point is because I don't know it off the top of my head, but what this is going to do is get that type of quilting, with handles, etc. It's the same handles. That type of quilting, it's going to bring it down to a lower price point, and then also bring down the square footage you need to a lower price point. So it's not the same as having a frame, but it's a really nice option, particularly if, say, you also liked embroidery and because, okay, you have to think about with this hoop frame, you have to be present because there's no Qmatic, right? So you have to be present driving the frame. You're still going to be doing it. You're going to be doing it yourself. So it's a good to have in combination, like while you're doing your embroidery and you're just doing thread changes every once in a while. It's a fun thing to play with. I think it's going to be really good for getting people into a Q series. The focus has been so 990 intensive over the last year. And I think this is going to open up the Q series for a lot of people. And like, even though the 990 does have stitch regulation with rulers, um, I still, if I had to choose what to quilt on, I'd still go to my Q series because it moves a little differently. But that makes sense because that's literally the only thing the Q series does, right? Is quilt. It's the only thing it does. So it makes sense that it's going to have kind of those superpowers. And definitely when you have a hopping foot machine, it makes it easier to kind of move around things. So, I think it will be good. I think it will be good for Bernina. I think it's not the same as a regular frame. I think it will be a good stepping stone for people. Um, One of the things about that clamp frame, it is compared to its competitors, it is sturdy, man. They figured it out. It is not like rickety and that matters because when you think about the machine, which is heavy, right? It's um, any machine you quilt with is going to be really rather on the heavier side. You don't want if the frame moving with the machine. You need it to be very, very steady. And I was impressed by how steady it was. I did try it. Um, it's like ruler work and free motion on a frame, right? It's sort of like if you had a Q16 without any automation, so not a Q16 plus, and you put it on a frame, then you could do ruler work and free motion. You couldn't do Qmatics. That idea, but the main benefit of a clamp frame is going to be for people because you have to reclamp to get to different areas of the quilt. So it's not as fast as a regular frame, but it's going to be for people who are limited in space. So it's Q16 or Q16 plus, but Roseanne, it's also some domestic machines. So you could put on a 7 or a 9. I don't think you could put on a 5, but I don't know that for sure. But you could put on a 7 or 9. Um, I have never tried it with the 7 or 9. I have only tried it with the Q. I did like honestly, the price point of a Q16 on that frame is going to be so reasonable. I think that's what most people will do because otherwise you're really fighting with the throat space. I can't imagine a lot of people who have a like a 9 series, which does have a lot of throat space on it, are using the 9 series for something else. Like they want to do embroidery on their 9 series. So rather than buying another 9 series, you may as well buy a Q to do your quilting. Does that make sense? So, yeah, maybe Vince and I will show you that. I'll put that out there. I'm sure we could show you that at H&H. They have to have that in the booth. So maybe we'll meet early and try to film something for you there and talk about it. Okay? Um, I was going to say I could have him remotely dial in here, but I don't have a clamp thing to show you, and I don't really have the space for it. Um, so I'd rather do it when I'm at a show. Okay, let's see. I had a question asking about perfect quilting thread the other day. Um, all of what I've been showing you has been with the perfect quilting thread and spools. And I had someone ask me, do I piece with it as well? Yes, I've been doing all my piecing and quilting with the perfect quilting thread. It's worked really well. And where it worked exceptionally well was foundation paper piecing, because sometimes when I had a cotton thread in your foundation paper piecing, I'd get thread breakage just because it's also going through the paper, etc. So the fact that that perfect quilting thread is a cotton wrap polyester really helped for the foundation paper piecing. So I actually used it for that, and I'm going to look forward to using that in Twirl because when Twirl first came back, I didn't have that out. I didn't have that thread. I'm making a new Twirl in the Cotton Shop Basics, yeah, I do not think the Q20 fits on the clamp frame, but Barb, don't quote me on that. I think it might be too big. Um, I'm trying to remember. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if the hoop frame. Bernina. Oh, wait, I can't do it in my Instagram window. It will shut down Instagram. Hold on. Bernina hoop. I don't think they have it up yet. But Bernina International just put something up, but Bernina frame. I don't know. Oh, wait, hoop frame. I'm looking for you guys. I really thought it was 16 only, but yeah, it's 16 only. And then also, I'm looking on their website. It's the 7 series. The 8 series, if any of you guys have older 8s, you could use that, or the 9 series. Anything else, it's gonna it's gonna eat into too much of the hoop space. So, yeah. Okay. So I would think the Q20 carriage would be too big for it. I don't it's probably too big for the platform it sits on, but it's not on their website. They don't list it. So, and that was my first instinct, was to think that it doesn't work with the Q20. I think the Q20 is the princess. It goes to all the bigger frames, right? It can go to the studio frame. It can go to the pro frame. So this is like an interim solution. Okay. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I will see you guys in 3 weeks. I might see you guys before then. Just I don't know what the situation H&H is going to be. If you are one of my European dealers, please come see me. I'd love to get a European tour going for next year or the following year. Um, so yeah, the 7 series would be small, but it does list it as working with it, Margaret. Um, So anyway, come see me, European dealers, and I will see you guys in 3 weeks. Thanks. Have a great day.